then all of a sudden my nurse hands me this oxygen mask, and I was like, oh, this is not going well.
It's like, is this a movie about male models? Is that what this movie is? But then they go to, like, a cruise ship. And...
I'm sold.
I
don't know what it's called. I can never watch it again.
And now you know. Yeah, Pandorum.
Isn't that Dennis Quaid?
That's Dennis Quaid.
Quaid.
It was really good. I was like, oh, that is a twist I did not see coming.
I haven't seen that in so long. I want to watch that again, too.
I told my husband about it. He goes, there's no way there's a movie like that. I was like, there's a movie like that. He's like, oh, well, awfully convenient. You don't know a title. And I was like, there's a movie like that.
I mean, it's got two twists. Because the other twist is that he was the bad guy the entire time. Spoiler alert. Did you finish the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're recording. Welcome to Sequel Podcast. I'm at Bonta.
Oh, I'm Natalie Hurt.
I'm Gregory Klino.
Are you?
I am.
Oh, before I forget, so that you don't accidentally walk out of here without it.
Oh, good.
Copy of the movie.
I would have forgotten.
What movie?
Midnight Bloodshed.
You were in that, I believe.
Yeah. My husband loves this movie.
Does he really?
Yeah, when we went to see it, he's like, it's exactly what I expected. I love it. And I was like, okay.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Last time you were here, we talked about your filming experience. So how was the premiere experience?
It was great. It was probably one of the better premieres I think I've been to. It was very, I don't know. It was a nice venue. It was a nice little environment.
Well, because you went to the Flock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was at the GSR.
Mm-hmm.
How big was that crowd?
It was actually bigger than I thought it was going to be. Because our first premiere, we did it at Take Two, so you really couldn't invite a lot of people. I think we each got 3 guests. But at this one, everybody had maybe 10 guests.
Same movie?
It was for...
At Take Two?
No. Take Two was his first movie, so we did...
Devil's Children.
Devil's Children, yes, that is what it's called. And so that one was really small, but this one we kind of went big and went all out, and it was a bigger cast, so just more people in general, and then more like faces that weren't in the movie, which was cool to see.
Were you a part of his more recent movie, Ghost?
I was not.
Oh, okay.
Because V is not part of Ghost's backstory.
Ah.
Oh, it's part of
they're
the...
all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's kind of, if you watch The Flock, Mike, the big white guy, that's one of the mercenaries, it's his backstory.
Oh, okay, cool.
I did watch it. I sent you that picture.
Yeah. What'd you think?
It was okay. I didn't love it.
When we were watching it in the theater, there's a part where Newey's like running through the sewers. He keeps running towards like the cages and running further in, and we're all like, "Oh my god, just turn around and leave!" It was very funny to have everybody. Just
Where was
like,
that filmed?
I actually don't know.
Oh, you weren't there for that.
Mm-mm.
It's always fun to have those big theater group experiences where you can all yell the same thing at the screen.
Yeah, you're like, what are you doing?
We're all in this movie together and we love it.
So who did you bring to the premiere?
I brought my husband.
And?
That's it.
That's not it.
Well, I guess I brought...
Who was your entourage?
I brought my husband and I brought his sister because she loves Friday the 13th movies. And then one of my other friends, Yo-Yo, she showed up. I wasn't sure she was going to, but she's my manager. She handles like social media and things that come through, so I'm not good at that.
She was there when we filmed too.
She was, yeah.
At the
I brought her and
your
then
death scene.
Yes, I brought her and then I brought my agent Jessica, who handles all the other stuff that I don't know how to do.
Must be nice.
If I had those people in my life, I'd probably have a better time management.
Yeah, I could get some rest.
Yeah.
So it went well. They all liked it, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yo-Yo, over the moon. She's always overly excited. I like her energy whenever she comes to our stuff because she's always like super happy and she tells everybody about it. And then my sister-in-law loved it because she, like I said, loves the Friday the 13th movies. She was the first person to show my husband the Halloween movies. So loves all that stuff. So as soon as we were going to do this, I told her, I was like, hey, I'm in this Friday the 13th like movie fan film thing. You have to come if we do a premiere. So she's been waiting. And she's probably going to borrow this so that my sister-in-law can watch it too.
Well, I mean, look, I'll just give you another copy. No problem there.
Boom.
Was the movie what you expected it to be?
Yeah.
After having seen it, like, like there's one thing where, you read the script, right? And then you're only filming your parts, really. So, like, you don't really get to see what everyone else is doing, and when it comes together, what we leave in, what we cut out, what we switch around. It worked for you?
Yeah, reading the script is way different than, because you're like reading it and in your head you're like, okay, just trying to like keep it very 80s in your head, and then to see it actually kind of be cut together very 80s on screen, I was like, okay, no, this is perfect.
The flashback stuff culminating with the twist at the end, that all works for you? That all made sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm always worried about that because it's such a weird out there concept to do for just like kind of like a small indie movie. Like, I don't want to confuse the audience, if it's something that might be like, I'm here, this is my friend's movie, whatever, I don't know. So like I tend to do some like broad concepts at times.
Yeah, I mean, my husband got it, and he's always not the sharpest. I love him to death. He's a smart guy. But sometimes he watches things and he goes, what? Like, the flock and Devil's Children play together, and at the end of the movie, we have a callback to Devil's Children, and I'm like watching my husband, and I'm like, is he going to get this? He's going to follow?
What was the callback? I watched both of them, but like, it's been probably, close to a year since I watched Devil's Children.
At the very end, when I go back and pick up Danny, Chris's character, with the camera,
right?
And we like wake up, it's supposed to be us before we go and kill everybody in Devil's Children. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Devil's Children.
So the flock is a prequel to Devil's Children? Okay. That might make more sense.
And then Ghost is a prequel to Flock?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Doing the backwards sequels like... was it Paranormal Activity?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Paranormal, yeah.
Very, very much. And they're found footage, so,
Hey,
hey, if it works for the horror nerds.
Yeah.
A lot of them Midnight Bloodshed is kind of a prequel to Street Toughs. So my movie Street Toughs is where Weed first appears, the character Weed the biker, and he quits the biker club in that movie. So if he's ever a biker in one of my movies, it all takes place before Street Toughs. So... prequel there.
Yeah.
What else? I was gonna ask something, but I lost it. So what's going on with you? What are you doing now? Nothing. Raising children.
Yeah, child rearing. No, towards the end, I got a bunch of stuff from Take Two for auditions, but I was like too pregnant, and now I just had my kid, so I was like, well, this timing couldn't be more awful, thank you.
No.
I'm glad everyone wants to make spring movies, this is great.
Now that I'm unavailable.
Yeah, I was like, oh, awesome, this character sounds dope, however.
Oh, here we go. What did you guys work on before my movie? I know you mentioned something because I just listened to your other podcast.
We did a proof of concept, where you played a character that was going through some like weird am I a killer or am I not a killer
Yeah,
things.
or like what was my dad into kind of a thing.
Is it hereditary?
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
I think it was called Heritage, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, Heritage. Yeah.
And where's that movie at? Is that online?
No, that's a
It's
proof of
just proof of
concept,
concept.
so it's just going to be for investors to see.
Okay, fine. Whatever. Be like that.
Yeah, that was like the first time I ever met
Greg.
everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, like everybody at Mad Wife.
Okay.
I say that like Mad Wife wasn't cool. Like now I'm friends with all of them on Facebook.
So what else is going on? Anything interesting, fun, cool, awesome? Any weird stories?
No, not really.
No crazy anecdotes?
No. Oh. So I just gave birth recently, right? And my first birth was super easy, right? Just like popped a baby out. Oh yeah, that's it.
Oh, hey, that's you.
That's me.
I think I've seen that, though. I think you showed that to me.
I think it's on YouTube.
It is an unlisted rough draft.
I think
YouTube.
prior to casting you,
Yeah, that's part of my reel.
Greg showed me some of that, and it's like, oh, this is her right here.
Mm-hmm.
Because you weren't the only person that reached out.
I figured. I only reached out because Livia goes, oh, you should do this. He's really cool. And I was like, got it. Cool beans.
All right, as you were saying,
Right. So with my first birth, it was like super smooth, super easy. I like labored at home for most of it, show up at 6 centimeters, and I'm like, hey, this is now unmanageable. Please fix this. Because I was like one of those hippie people that was like, I'm going to do this unmedicated. I'm a pro. And like, you know, the first half of labor goes really well. If you've ever been with a woman who goes through labor, the first half usually goes pretty smooth. And then all of a sudden there's a moment where you're like, yeah, absolutely not. No. This is, no, bowling ball is not going to come out of this straw. I promise you. And so I go in, and, you know, everything's super smooth. My son just basically pops out, walks out. It was super easy. So this next one, he's like, my husband's telling all these doctors how smooth my first labor is.
Oh, no.
And I'm already in pain, and my doctor goes, you're like 3 centimeters dilated. And I was like, I don't care. If you don't give me something, I'm going to murder everyone on this floor. And so I'm like, okay, so this is already not off to a great start. And we're like sitting there, and I'm trying not to snap at people. I'm trying to be like the sweet, cute little girl next door. My husband's like, oh yeah, she just like launched our son out. It'll be super easy. So then I start pushing, and my husband, who is not great with faces, is like holding my hand, trying to be supportive, you know. And I can see that he can see the monitor, and I see his face go. And I was like, okay, not helping. And then all of a sudden my nurse hands me this oxygen mask, and I was like, oh, this is not going well.
No.
So then, you know, the doctors are all up in there. There's no privacy, everything, you know. These are now indoors of my body, and these doctors are like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, that's great. So then I get a new doctor who comes in because they do a shift change, and I've been pushing for like
great.
an hour and a half. Like,
Oh, no.
long enough
So
for a
you're
shift
already
change.
in
And I'm
pain
like,
and exhausted.
I'm like, okay. And this epidural, not working.
Oh, jeez.
Not even close. And I'm like, okay, this is fine. This is fine. I've been through worse. I can do hard things. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe I can't do hard things. And then the doctor goes, oh, she's sunny side up. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And I was like, you're going to have to break this down for me before I keep pushing. And she's like, oh, she's like face up. And I'm like,
So?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was like, excuse me, I've only ever delivered 2 babies in my lifetime. Is that not how they come out? And she's like, well, no. And I'm like, okay. She's like, you're just going to have to push harder. And I was like, look, not to quote Star Trek, but I'm giving her all she's got. Like, I ain't got much left in the tank. I was like, is there any way you can just, like, I don't know, pull her out a little bit? And she goes, well, we have this vacuum. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. Do that. And she's like, you don't want to hear the risks? And I'm like, no. At this point, C-section is the end goal, okay? Whether I pass out or you pull this baby out of me. So let's just figure out how to get her out. And so she puts this little vacuum on, and I get her out in like 1 contraction. And I'm like, why didn't you start with this? I've been pushing for 2.5 hours with an oxygen mask, and my husband looking like, oh my God, my wife's gonna die, which does not help.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. I was like, cool. And I know it's because my husband told everybody that I had an easy delivery the first time.
You brought up those
Jinxed it.
expectations.
I know. I was like, you know what? You gotta set the bar on the floor. Like I did when I met you. I was like, there it is. You just step over that, sweetheart. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is great. Yeah. And now I'm like 3 weeks postpartum. Everyone and their mom is telling me, oh, you don't even look like you had a baby. And I was like, I mean, I went to the gym, I guess. I don't know. And they're like, oh, you look great. And I was like, I have no secrets. I've been on my couch since this baby came out of me. I don't know what to tell you. And they're like, well, you don't look exhausted at all. And I was like, yeah, it's a funny thing when you set a baby down and you leave the room. And you're like, figure it out. Mommy will be back. Yeah.
So she's 3 weeks old? She or he? What is it?
She.
She, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yep, her name is Elizabeth.
And she's 3 weeks old?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't that long ago.
Mm-mm.
Holy shit.
Yeah, my son just got to the point where he's like, okay, I'll touch it now.
Oh.
Yeah, we brought her home. We're like, this is your sister. And he goes, I don't want to touch her. He said that to me like 3 times in a row. And I was like, you don't have to. This is just a fact of life now. And he's just like, I'm not on board.
What? You're killing me, Greg. You want me to stop playing with this?
It's coming through.
I don't hear anything. Do you hear it?
I definitely hear it.
That's why he's the sound guy.
Greg doesn't like it when I fiddle with things. I'm a
No, it's completely recorded.
fidgeter. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Speaking of the first movie we worked on together, he goes, "Can you not tap your fingers so loud?" And I'm like, I can't even hear myself tapping my fingers.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I was tapping the counter, and you weren't the
Oh.
only person who said it either. Like, people said it to me. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." They're like, "It's fine, it's just creating feedback." And I was like, "Doesn't sound fine. I can hear you getting irritated." So then I'm just like holding my hands like this for a couple of the
We're
takes.
probably all just thinking about the edit, like, oh, it's not going to tap together in the edit.
Yeah. I remember trying to count my paces for the edits when I was like pacing back and forth. I was like, I got this. I can do this.
So what's next then for you? Do you want to keep making movies?
Yeah, hopefully. I did decide I'm going to take a year off of any kind of stage stuff. Because there's just a lot of driving and then long rehearsals and...
Doing a part-time job for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember the first time I did something for Reno Little Theater and they gave me like a check at the end and I was like, oh. Like...
Here's your tip.
I was like, oh, I didn't know this was coming.
Yeah, it's been kind of nice the last like 5 years. The theaters in Reno have been starting to move in that direction.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was like, well, this is my first paid gig.
Must be nice. I don't know. I've never been paid for any gigs before. I run my own gigs, though, I guess. I don't know.
You spend money on your gigs.
Yes, all my gigs are in the negative.
Yeah, I wrote a script, and the fact that you make movies at all, I got the script part done, and then I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, God, I have to organize people, and I have to spend money on these things that I want. All right, this is just going to sit in the abyss forever.
Well, let's talk about that then. How
Yeah,
long is it?
It is super short. It's like, so... Well,
If you want to talk about it.
It's like a... I don't know. I wrote it specifically with the Sundance Festival in mind, so it's like a deeper topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on this movie cast with... I don't know, I posted it, but I did this movie with Coda Wilson, where it's like this LGBTQ kind of like version of events where there's a bunch of LGBTQ couples and one of them ends up being crazy, and I don't want to ruin it if you haven't watched it, but it's like a really cool psychological thriller that he wrote and directed for his education, his degree. I don't know if it was bachelor's or what it was, but it was for one of his classes, and so we did that, and I'm having a conversation behind the scenes with this girl, and she's like, I don't know why more people don't do this in movies when they're murderers. You can just cut the vein on the inside of someone's thigh and they'll bleed out before they probably even notice what's going on. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm gonna need you to take 2 steps back, but also that's a good idea. So I stow that away in my brain, and then I'm sitting, and I was an English minor in college, so I'm like, I'm gonna write for fun. Why not? And I started writing about this woman, and that's how she kills people. And then I developed a whole story around it for her, backstory, why she's killing people, what she's doing it with. And, it became this women's power of murdering horrible men. And I was like, this is good. And I just wrote a short little quip of it and tried to throw a twist in there. And I was like, I'm going to make this short film. It's going to be great. And then I sent it off to a couple of people, and then they sent me back the list of people you would need to make it. And I was like, you know what? Let's just table it.
What does that mean by the list of people you would need?
Well, because she goes, so you know how to film things? And I was like, no, camera guy's not. Let's just take that off my resume. And she was like, what do you mean? Don't you take pictures? And I was like, whole different ballgame. Take it off my resume. I held the camera for a found footage movie for that one scene in the flock. Not for me. I was like, no, we'll need someone for that. And she goes, okay, but you know how to edit things. And I was like, no, we'll need someone for that. she's like, okay, what do you know how to do? And I was like, act and direct and cast people. And she goes, okay. So then she starts listing what you would need for post-production, pre-production, during production. And I'm like, okay. Not to mention the whole cast and crew I would need.
Sure.
And,
you know a lot of those people now, though.
yeah, and it's a dark topic, so I'm like, oh, well, I have to make sure that, the women I cast are, comfortable with these things. And I was like, okay, we'll just wait until I have more time. Because I was like, I could get this all done and then edit it while I'm on my maternity leave. And then I was like, no, I can't. So I was like, okay, we'll wait. We'll wait till my kid's old enough and I can, leave her at home with my husband or, leave her with a bottle. And then we'll go do these things. And I'm like, okay, it's just going to sit here for a while. And eventually I think I'll pull it out, and then maybe I'll get a new idea and I'll be able to like tweak it a little bit. But it's a lot of voiceover, so I need like a really good sound person.
Right.
And someone who knows how to record things. And I was like, okay, like I know people who could do that, but like I don't have the mental capacity to schedule that right now. We'll figure it out.
It's rough. It really is rough.
Yeah, and then I'm like, how do I pay these people? I could pay them in food, but I'm always disappointed when I'm paid in food. Because sometimes this one guy paid me in like a Greek wrap, and I was like,
a pita?
Yeah, it wasn't
euro.
I don't even know. It was like I don't know. It was just Greek flavors in like a regular wrap, and I was like, thank you. I don't want to be ungrateful, but I'm going to take this to go, and I promise I'll eat it. But it's going to be, you're not going to watch me eat it. I'm going to take it to go. So I was like, okay, I'll pay him in food. And then I'm like, well, what if not everybody likes the food? So I was like, okay, we'll figure this out. I'm going to stash away some stuff so I can like, get people good pizza or something.
You could always make them pizza.
I could.
Do you make good pizza? Are you about to say you don't make good pizza?
I do not make good pizza. I make a mad lasagna, if people are into that.
If you were to pay me in lasagna, I would be thankful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I tabled that idea.
Well, what you need is, and I'm going to give you advice that I haven't taken myself, is you need to get somebody to give you money to make your movie, and then you use their money to pay people.
Other people's money.
They say never use your own money to make a movie.
Yeah.
Jessica, my agent, is actually very good at writing grant proposals.
Yes.
So I'm just going to make her do that. Not make her. I'll ask her nicely and then buy her pizza.
And then she will get you money.
And then offer to babysit her kid.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, that's my biggest hump to get over is, as far as trying to ask somebody for money, is like, I don't know how to get a return for them. Right. Because there's no guarantee that someone will distribute the movie that we make once it's done. So, I mean, that's where we are right now.
The last 2 years have been really interesting in the indie distribution community because of things like Film Hub providing a huge resource for filmmakers to self-distribute. Tubi is hugely popular right now, especially in the Black community. We are not Black, so
yeah, cross that one off.
But that's crazy.
Just because, it's really great to have those kind of things for certain communities, and also be open for the rest of the communities as well. But I've got some stuff on Tubi that I just put it on my back screen at work and let it run all day. And hopefully, with all the ads that run, we get a little revenue.
I watched Flock on Tubi, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's the last 2 years, there's definitely grown a lot of ways for self-distribution. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck are starting a new production company based on that model.
Is that why they're all in interviews right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they just put out the movie Air also.
Well, because I see them talking about Good Will Hunting, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like, Good Will Hunting, it's like not even on an anniversary this year because it came out in like 97. Yeah. So I was like, why are we interviewing these guys again? Yeah.
But yeah, they're doing the whole thing of looking at how the music industry turned towards digital distribution and like people listening to everything at home, downloading at home, hardly going to concerts. Well, some people, and now they're like, well, I guess the movie and film industry is probably going to need to go that direction too. So they're getting ahead of the wagon, I guess. And I think it's a great idea, and I think it will work really well, especially for people that have money to get it off the ground.
Yeah. Their own money.
Right. But then once they have a successful version of it, the little people can look at like, okay, that's how they did that. That's how I can do that now, just by making my own creation and getting it out there by myself. Which I guess that's one good thing that has come out since March of 2020.
I wish they would have stuck with the film premieres at home. As it became with March 2020. I get it, box office money, but...
Yeah.
Well, that ruined everything too, because now people are only betting on like tentpole blockbuster movies. No one's going to see like all of the Academy Award nominated movies. I watched all those at home, not in theaters. I didn't bother with Avatar 2, but that's just me.
Yeah. I think taste comes down to it too. Like, I will.
Can we talk about this real quick?
I will always want to go see a movie in the theater. Like what Tom Cruise said at the beginning of Maverick. He said this whole thing of, we wanted to wait to release this until you could see it in theaters, like, because that's the moving, going cinematic experience that he wanted associated with his film. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. I like that. I'm a part of that. I'm in that group, you know. But I get home and I relax with the TV, you know. So I can do both.
All right.
But I love the theater.
So, the Academy Award. Have you watched, either of you? Probably not you. You don't watch anything anymore.
I've been getting home and just watching, like, The Office.
I know.
Because
That's exactly what
classic.
it is. Yeah. I've been watching Mythic Quest. Mythic Quest?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Like, just like a quick half-an-hour comedy. Like, just to unwind. I just need to unwind. Work sucks. I just want to unwind. But the Academy Awards this year... Did you guys watch any of the whatever it was?
I didn't see the
any
list.
of the deeper cuts.
So I might have seen them, but I don't know the list off the top of my head.
It was very telling of the way movies are kind of going, because they were all kind of like long and boring movies. And I wish I had the list on me. Let me grab it real quick. But like, I watched all of them but Avatar, and Avatar's like a 3-hour movie.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why I haven't seen it yet.
And I didn't like the first one.
So I went and saw the first one, like, in theaters, and I was
Same.
like, oh, this concept is so cool, but the story is not for me, man.
I mean, it's
John
like-
Smith, Pocahontas story.
Yeah, well, I
Dances
like,
with Wolves,
Yeah.
Fern Gully.
the stars that were in it, and I like the cast. The cast is a great cast, and
The
they're great
filmmaker's a great
actors. Yeah.
filmmaker.
And it's super cool that in the second one they actually filmed underwater. Super cool. That's like a huge feat, especially from someone who's terrified of underwater. So like super cool.
Yeah, we shot something last year where you were, splashing around in the water.
And I was like, oh, that's super cool that you guys did that. I'm not going to watch it, though. I'm pretty sure how I feel about it is how some people feel about the extended cut of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So.
I feel that way about Snyder Cut of Justice League. I
Whoa,
prefer the theatrical Whedon cut. It's because it is shorter, for one, and it's more fun to watch. Like, the whole thing that I was expected for Snyder Cut was seeing them kick Darkseid's ass, and he talks a couple times in the movie. I'm like, it's Darkseid.
Well,
He just
you get,
wasted
some-
Darkseid.
I don't want to get too nerdy here. You get there's a Green Lantern in there. You can also get the Martian Manhunter at the end.
You see some cool
And
stuff.
you get a cool future scene with the
But-
Joker. Jared Leto Joker's back.
As a movie, as a whole, I prefer the Whedon cut.
Sometimes you watch the
Natalie.
different cuts and you go, yeah, I know why that wasn't in there.
Yeah. I enjoy the Snyder cut. I enjoy all the things that you get to see and the way they did them, but I'm just like,
Well, look, I don't even like Zack Snyder, so I mean, it's rough. I know. I'm a complicated critic on movies.
I have a tendency to like traditional not liked movies and not like some movies that a lot of people do love. So
All right, so this is what we got, and I watched all these but Avatar. So you got the winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you seen it?
I did not.
I did not see that one.
I
To
missed
be
it.
honest, the concept didn't make me want to watch it. And the trailers where I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I kept getting hung up on, that guy kind of looks like this guy, or that lady looks like this lady from the sitcom that I watched. And then I was like, oh, I don't care about the story at all.
Oh, wow.
Which is, evidently it was a great movie because it won.
I mean,
I wanted to see it for just all the filmmaking stuff, but I was kind of the same way. The story didn't grab me.
it probably won because all the other movies were so fucking boring. I don't want to come off as an asshole and just a shitheel as far as movies go. They were all really well made movies. The acting was great, the writing was great, the directing was great. They all looked slick and great, but it's just I don't want 2.5 hours of boring, depressing shit, man. Even Everything Everywhere All at Once was a really long movie, and it's just it's almost too much action. All the drama in there is great, but they they did what they wanted to do, and they were outside the box with everything, and they won, and they got all the accolades, which is great. I'm happy for them.
And they did it with a pretty small crew and fairly cheaply too, which was cool.
Okay, so then we've got All Quiet on the Western Front. That was a Netflix movie. It was Netflix, so I was able to watch it. Watched it at home. Oh no, actually, I watched these on my phone on my breaks at work.
I wonder why they were so boring.
I mean, they were more entertaining than what I was doing, before and after the breaks. But like, All Quiet on the Western Front, it's a remake of the Best Picture of the year in 1930, right? So, like, are they trying to strike twice, like make lightning strike twice? It was really good. Actually, I liked the score a lot, and the score ended up winning. So. That's something. It was a good movie. I'm going to be saying this a lot.
Yeah.
All right, then Avatar, which I didn't bother with. I didn't like the first one. All right, The Banshees of Inisherin.
Didn't see it.
It's an HBO Max movie.
Yeah, it's the Colin Farrell one.
Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson from the guy that made In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Great movie.
Like, I love all those. And I love that filmmaker a lot. He's also a playwright and great stuff. But the movie is, like, boring. It's about one dude that's like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And then the other dude being like, why not? And then, like, 2.5 hours later, it's over. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, I liked the performances in there. They're all great. But, like, I don't need 2.5 hours of one guy being like, come on.
Of a bromance breakup?
It's so weird, right? But, like, the guy had something to say, and he got to make the movie, and it was good. It just was boring. I'm sorry. All right, okay. I know you've seen this, because we talked about it on the last podcast. Elvis.
Yes.
How about you?
I did not see Elvis.
Okay, and I watched this on HBO Max.
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
So, and, like, what did you think? Was it too long?
I thought it was a good movie if you already knew about Elvis.
Sure.
I think if you're going into it and you're like, I know he sang these songs, I think you're going to kind of be like, okay. Because I don't think it spends enough time developing, like, what it was supposed to be. Because it's supposed to be like a cinematic documentary kind of experience.
Yeah, no, yes.
And then it didn't really come across like that. It was just, like, so quick going through, like, different...
Vignette-y. Very vignette-y, but, like... Not even to the point to where it's, like, episodic and we're watching, like, a self-contained episode of, like, a show or something.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Joaquin Phoenix, Johnny Cash one.
No, not at all. I mean, that's a good pull. That's a good pull on
Yeah.
that was a good movie. And not to say that this wasn't a good movie.
It's just, you kind of had to go... It's like the second book in a series where you have to go in knowing the character and all the different stopping points along the way. It just doesn't... Like, if I would have taken my grandmother, who I'm sure followed Elvis in the magazines, like it was a religion, she would have loved it. Me, I kind of know about Elvis, because, again, my grandmother, but, like...
Cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, but if I were to take my kid, or even let my kid watch it when he gets a little older, he's going to be like, okay, Elvis made music. Neat.
Well, I mean, it also was...
That was a neat
seemed
movie,
more
Mom.
fascinated with the Colonel Tom Parker character than the Elvis character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so, okay, I know you've seen this movie, so The Fabelmans.
Fabelmans, yeah, I did see that. I thought it was a very interesting episode. It didn't feel like a start to finish movie. It just felt like it happened. Like, it was great.
It was good. It was really good, but...
it was really good, but at the end of the movie, I was just like...
And then he made Jaws.
Yeah, and then he made Jaws.
Okay.
Cool. One of the things that I could tell while watching, even like during the viewing experience, to be a douche about it.
Let's douche it up.
But I remember a direction that I got from one of my favorite directors in town.
Mathew
I've
Bonta.
got a few of them. Stage director. We were midway through the rehearsal process, and we were starting to get to some really, really fun realizations and experiments with the characters and stuff. And she gave us this note of, don't make it too precious. And where you're you have this idea in your head and you want to make it the best it can be, and you just have this such precious thought of what you want the scene to be and how you want the characters to work, that sometimes you just got to release it so that the audience can actually see the play as well.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
while watching The Fabelmans, I was just like, this is a very precious movie.
It felt very precious. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for myself when I'm finishing a movie, making a movie. Don't be so precious about everything. Learn to let things go and let it kind of form into something else, its own little magic. And like watching The Fabelmans, and I felt like this about like the more recent Steven Spielberg movies, is like it just feels like he's kind of just making them because he can now, right? This isn't Jaws, this isn't Jurassic Park, like I kind of want something gritty. Like give me something gritty. These movies are too clean.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the 70s.
Yeah, like The Batman was really gritty.
It was pretty gritty.
Story, filmmaking.
It was very wet.
Some of the acting.
Colin Farrell.
But I think getting more movies like that is going to really excite me, Batman style rather than Fableman style.
All right, so next on the list is Tar. Tar, anybody?
I haven't even heard of Tar.
Yeah, it's
Is
it
that
was
a Netflix movie?
I watched it on Peacock, maybe.
Oh, okay. It was a home
Yeah,
release.
no, like
Yeah.
well, look, like Fablemans, I watched on Vudu. I bought it on Vudu and watched that. Tar,
I did see it in theaters, which I thought helped, but
So Tar is like, great acting. Kate
Yeah.
Blanchett was fantastic. You know what I loved about Tar? I loved the writing on Tar. And Tar did not win the writing. That's the one I picked, was like best screenplay, because it goes into the world of a conductor and everything that this conductor goes through, and like she's the maestro and like she's the best, but then like she gets caught up like in a like a Me Too type of scandal, like where she like maybe sexually violated one of her
violinists.
or like a flutist or something, flautist, and like that's like way at the end. Like she's dealing with it through the movie and everything else like that, but like it really just kind of culminates at the end. But like the movie, it's too long and boring. Like I'm not saying the subject matter sucks. It's just like the movie was very slow, right? And it felt more like a play than it would be like a film.
Maybe that's something that the culture is just moving towards, more of a play setting, play version.
Maybe. Well, and once again, like
we just got out of the superhero era.
Maybe it all comes back to like why I watched most of these movies at home.
Yeah.
All right. So next is Top Gun, Maverick. Right? You've seen it.
I've seen that.
I really, really liked.
And
Top
I
Gun.
saw that, and once again, that makes me seem like okay. So I watched the big movies in theaters.
Yeah.
I saw this day one. Right. That's what I do.
Well, and I can't tell if I really liked it or if I'm such a huge Top Gun fan that it just carried over.
Like if the movie was just fucking cool, right?
Yeah, and there's a giant scene with shirtless dudes, so like that plays to my love.
Well, look, it was cool. It was a fun movie.
Yeah.
Is it really Best Picture nominee?
Well, it's hard to say because I liked it so much, so I'm definitely biased. But if you break it down just by what makes a Best Picture, then I would say yeah. I mean, it hit all the feels. It didn't have any necessary bloated stuff. I mean, you don't even know who the bad guys are.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And there were bad guys. Unlike the first movie, they are the bad guys themselves.
Yeah.
But it was just cool.
It was cool. I think the fact that they really stuck to a lot of practical filming in it, like, really speaks to, like, the skill of the filmmaker. They put cameras inside of these airplanes, and they were like, all right, guys, good luck. We're going to send you up there. Because I remember watching an interview before the movie even came out, and Miles is, like, talking about how he wasn't strapped all the way into his seat when they actually flew up and flipped over, so he hits the top. So then I'm, like, watching the movie and watch it happen, and I'm like, oh, and my husband's, like, a flight guy, and he goes, oh, his shoulder straps aren't tight enough. And I was like, yeah, but he talked about that, and they kept it, because they're actually in planes. Get with the picture. This is so cool.
I remember him talking, or maybe it was one of the other pilot's characters in the movie. They had a similar, probably in the same interview sitting. We're talking about how they would have to hit record themselves, and because of the way they set it up and the way those cameras were able to be set up. They talked about coming back from one of their flights, one of the takes, and the camera guy was like, "Oh, you actually accidentally hit record twice, and it didn't record any of what you just did."
Oh God.
We got to go up again tomorrow.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
It was a well-made movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
I mean, I liked it.
Yeah.
You're the odd man out here.
I know.
Was
I
this
had shirtless guys for you and had Jennifer Connelly for me. So.
Yeah. And I just love when they bring back people from the
So
like
Val
OGs.
Kilmer.
Yeah. I was so excited. I wasn't sure he was going to be able to do it because, I thought he was just going to be a text message for him because he's got cancer.
Okay, hold on. I've got a thought on this. I think they just dubbed his voice with technology, right? Is that... Did you watch his documentary?
Did not watch this.
I did not watch it.
Oh yeah, no, he can't talk, and I don't think he's ever gonna be able to talk again. So I think we live in the world like on Mandalorian and
with young Mark Hamill.
What's the Ewan McGregor one?
Obi-Wan.
Oh, Obi-Wan.
Right. So
Right,
all of Darth Vader's lines are from young James Earl Jones from his old stuff. And they just they need him to say what he needs to say. So I think that's all they did for Val Kilmer was get some of his old voice and just put it over when he is speaking out loud.
Oh, and rough it up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
That would
could
make
be.
sense.
Yeah, very could be.
It was still a nice little treat.
It was.
Yes.
It was.
A nice little nugget.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, there's only two more. Triangle of Sadness.
Never heard of it.
Even
Yeah,
heard of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I watched it on one of the streamings, Peacock or Paramount
Yeah.
Plus, I forget which one. No, I think it was on Hulu. Now, I started this movie, and I was like, already I'm bored. Like, what the fuck is this fucking movie? And it's like, it starts off with a bunch of male models, and it's like, is this a movie about male models? Is that what this movie is? But then they go to a cruise ship. And
I'm sold. Did you hit them both?
You were not part of the target audience.
But I liked this movie though. I did. This was one of my favorite ones because it got better as it went along. Because there's a fantastic scene in this movie. Do you have Hulu?
I do.
Do you have Hulu? You got my Hulu.
Yeah.
I think this movie is well worth watching because it goes a place that they used to go back in the day, like older movies. It still looks clean and slick. Woody Harrelson pops in as like a shitty captain, but there's a fantastic scene. It's kind of like it's like a movie about like a class system, right? So you've got the people who are working on the boat, and then you've got these two models, like a man and a woman, younger couple, and then you've got an older couple, or an older dude with married to maybe a younger chick, and they're rich, and it's kind of like a class thing that they're trying to tell. But there's this really fun scene at the captain's dinner, which I love. I don't want to spoil it. You should watch it, absolutely. But I did like Triangle of Sadness as it went on, but it's still 2.5 hours. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And then the last one was women talking, and I really liked this one. And it's just women talking. Literally, it's in the title. Have you guys heard of women talking or seen it?
I haven't. No.
I haven't even heard of it.
This is what I'm talking about, right?
It's I haven't heard of half of the nominees.
Maybe it was a marketing mishap.
On
my behalf, I'm not anywhere near marketing.
I liked women talking a lot, and I knew once again. I started watching, and I'm like, this is gonna be a sloth. I'm gonna sloth through this thing because it's long. Actually, this one's actually only 145. I think it did me a favor by being nice tight 145. But it's a really good movie. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
The acting's great, and all it is a group of women. They were and it's on a. God, what is it? They're what are those people called in Philadelphia? Pennsylvania.
The colonists?
Like Amish people?
Yes. They're not they're not Amish, but they're like an Amish group, Mennonites or something that. And there was a group of dudes that they were knocking out the women and assaulting them, violating them while they were passed out, and it's just about these group of women. All the women in the village, all the men take off to take the men to jail in a this is like in the 80s or something. It's based on a true story, and they all just talk through like, what do we do? Do we banish them? You know, what's the situation? And you know, it's a really good, thought-provoking movie, and I liked it a lot. But once again, like all these movies, like, you know, not that they need to be Marvel films, you know.
I think we're a couple years past Marvel now, but
so well, I mean, like the big thing was supposed to be like Wakanda Forever. Like, it wasn't nominated, but like that was like a 3-hour movie, and like the first like 2.5 were boring. Like, it didn't get good. Did you watch it? Did you watch it?
I didn't.
I haven't watched
It
Marvel
was
since
so
Endgame.
boring. Since when?
Endgame.
I mean, that's probably
Well,
everybody.
okay, that's a lie.
You got
I
Black
watched
Widow.
Spider-Man because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen my gigantic Spider-Man tattoo. But, yeah. So, I've watched Spider-Man, but everything else I'm just, I'm not a huge fan.
Well, you've
of,
got
like,
2 Spider-Mans after Endgame.
Yeah, I've seen them both.
And
Well,
you
that's
got Black
those are,
Widow.
friendly neighborhood movies.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I started with Tobey. I'm gonna see it through all the way to the end. You can't be like, oh, Tobey Maguire's gonna be in this, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna pass on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved seeing both those dudes in that movie. I thought that was fantastic. Like, that should have won Best Picture.
I liked
Fucking-
I liked that they were very much playing old men who have been doing this way too long because they have like their back problems and their stretching and their emotional issues. And I like that Andrew Garfield, they bring in the fact that everybody's like, he's not real Spider-Man because he's the Amazing Spider-Man, which is a different Spider-Man. And he brings that up and he goes, look, man, you're amazing. And I was like, this line just sold this whole movie for me. I don't even care.
When that came out, like that period of movies coming out, like there was that Spider-Man, The Matrix 4, The Final Bond, and Scream 5.
Right.
And all 4 of those movies I thought were very much geared directly towards their fans. And I loved all 4 of those movies, and they came out in like 6 months from each other.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
I
probably
heard
the
the
best.
Matrix wasn't any good.
It wasn't that. It wasn't an amazing movie, but it's very much a fan's movie, not a fan film. But those 6 months, those 4 movies were very good for the fans, I think.
And
the fans.
it seems
And
like
I
they're
think-
starting to do that a little bit more.
Yeah, but then like you having those really long sloth movies where you're like, okay, this is for the people who want to really sit down and watch this.
I
story.
watched all those fucking movies for the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
I feel like movies are getting longer anyway, because I went to go see the D&D movie because there's no way, as a Dungeon Master, I was not going to see that movie. So I watched that. Hilarious. I loved it.
I liked it a lot too. I didn't
Some
get to
of the
finish
jokes
it,
like went over my husband's head, and I'm like laughing, looking at him like, "Did you get that? Because it's so funny." Like there's a part where he's like explaining this whole puzzle in front of the bridge, and then the mage just like steps
on it,
and then it all falls through, and he just the defeat that he just embodies. I'm like, dude, as a dungeon master, for real, like you spend so long explaining the puzzle that these people have to solve, and then they don't even roll. They're like, okay, can I like seduce it? And I'm like, that's
That's not the purpose of the puzzle.
I guess roll for initiative. I don't. Whatever. Yeah, I was like, oh man, he's so defeated. And then there's a part where he's just like walking, and they go, "Is he gonna walk in a straight line?" And he just like
walks in a straight line,
and you're just like
over the rocks.
Yep, that's about right.
I thought that was great. I didn't get to finish it, but I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
What I did see, like, for me, Chris Pine sold it. Right,
Mm-hmm.
it was easily a movie he could have just phoned in, but he went with all in on his character.
Oh yeah, I think lately he's been. It's funny to me to watch him do press about movies and then watch him in the movie because lately he's been like an unhinged
Oh really?
Chris Pine to me.
Oh, yeah.
I watched him in Don't Worry Darling, and he's like gives like this
It's
incredible
weird.
performance.
It's weird though.
I was like, you aren't even really in this all
Yeah,
that
not-
much,
yeah.
but you're like bringing it to the table. Okay, cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, because
I
I was
re- I
trying to
read
talk
that-
to Greg about this last week. Did he get spit on by what's that guy's name? I couldn't remember it then. Harry Styles?
Harry Styles.
Did you follow that all the behind the scenes what was going on with that
Yeah,
movie?
I like saw all that because I love Florence Pugh, and as soon as she was like, they were like, she doesn't like the director. I was like, all right, Olivia's out. I hate her. Cool. I don't know what she did, but like, your ride or die. You don't know me. I'm your ride or die. But I've been her ride or die since Little Women. So I was like, got it. But, yeah, I was, like, following all of that. I have no idea. Because, like, Chris Pine was like, it's nothing.
Of course.
And I was like, but of course he has to say that. He has a publisher. He has to have a good image.
Right.
Harry Styles' publisher is probably like, I will give you money to pretend this didn't happen. So I was like, whatever. I don't really care.
It looks like he spits on him.
It does.
And he responds in a way like, oh, he just did that. Okay, I gotta be cool about this.
Yeah.
But you see the response. It's
but
hard
also,
to hide,
yeah.
like,
the
facial
whole time
expressions.
he looks super high. Like, the whole time he's
Chris
doing press.
Pine
Yeah.
looks high?
The whole time he's doing press for that movie. Or he looks, like, not sold on the fact he should be there. There's, like, a couple times where he's just like... and I'm just like, hey, man, are you in the room with us right now?
Well, it must not... Like, it seems like it wasn't that great of an experience to be on that set.
It sounds like it was kind of a shit show.
She fired, or... what's his...
Shia
LaBeouf
Yeah.
quit...
Well, so the whole... I did follow all of that because Florence Pugh was involved. Because at first she was like, because the director goes, I'm going to fire him because of, he's just got this horrible back
process.
and forth with...
Oh, like, yeah.
Well, like, he's just not going to get along with Florence Pugh. But then it turns out she's, like, friends with him.
Oh, really? I didn't get that.
There's, like, a text message thread that came out that, like, they're friends, so it was, like, not anything about that. And I'm like, dude, if you just, like, don't want to work with an actor, like, at least own up to it.
Yeah.
And don't be like, oh, I'm going to push this off on some other actor's problem, who you already have beef with, lady. Like,
well, what do you think? Do you think Shia would have been better than Harry Styles? Like,
I mean, Harry Styles impressed me because he's just a singer to me.
Right.
But I don't want to say it and, like, insult him on the off chance he listens
let's
to the
say
podcast. But to me, he's just...
We love you, Harry Styles.
The guy who has, like, an amazing stage presence is what I get from him, and kind of a flamboyant, cool guy. But he did, exceed my expectations.
Yeah, yes.
Which were not very high, so I don't know what to say about that.
He hasn't really done anything else.
Yeah,
right?
he exceeded my expectations.
Do you think then with Chris Pine and D&D that elevated his performance so much because the cast had such a better bonding
absolutely.
experience? Like, they did a whole
They played the campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that they, like, once they got there on location, they fucking sat around and played D&D all day or whatever.
Yeah, they played the whole campaign. That was the story that they did in the movie. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
so like, having that full
if you're
cast
having
bonding,
fun on set,
Yeah.
it's gonna show on camera.
Yeah, and in all their interviews, they seem like they're way better bonded than in most movies I've seen.
Don't worry,
before.
darling.
Yeah, they're like feeding off of each other, laughing. I found out Vin Diesel plays D&D like it's his religion, apparently. And I was like, what? And then that's when it clicked. Oh, yeah, you're in Fast and Furious with Vin Diesel, so that makes sense.
I've heard an interview with Joe Manganiello. You know who that is?
Producer, yeah.
No, actor.
The actor.
Well, he was Deathstroke in Justice League, but he was also True Blood.
Okay, yeah.
Alcide, he's the werewolf. But he's like a big D&D guy, right? And he did an interview on Stephen Colbert where they're talking about D&D. And he's like, I don't know anyone that says that they played with Vin Diesel. So, I don't know. Maybe he's, whatever. So, I don't know. Maybe he plays. Maybe he doesn't.
Yeah, I just heard from that chick who's in Fast and Furious with him. She plays the barbarian.
Oh, yeah. I saw that interview. interview.
Which is also super cool that they had a lady barbarian. That made me very happy because it's so easy to just, like, get... someone who's already big and buff. There's so many wrestlers who act now.
Right.
You could have just done
Batista.
that. But instead, they were like, can you get jacked? And she was like, got it. And then threw her in. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And at first, I didn't recognize her because she's so much bigger than when she's in Fast and Furious.
Well,
like,
she's also older.
Buffer. Well, yeah, she isn't. Well, not like the latest
Who is it?
Fast and Furious.
Michelle Rodriguez.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I was like, oh, she's like jacked.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's
Well,
always been that
I've
action
always
type.
thought that she's been kind of jacked.
She's
like
been
Resident Evil.
but
yeah,
not-
she has like shoulder muscles and she's got like lean and cut. And as somebody who bodybuilds, like
Right.
she looks good.
I really like
but
her
like
that
she
too.
put on muscle.
yeah.
And I was like, that's impressive because I know how hard that is, especially when you're somebody who doesn't. I mean, I'm at, you're in Hollywood, you don't eat that much, and you have to eat a lot to get that kind of muscle as a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I we did the commentary. It's on the disc with Damon, and he was talking about he called you a bodybuilder. Because I guess you guys were talking about like leg day, and you said, well, leg day is the best day because you can eat whatever you want or something like that. I thought that was a funny anecdote.
Yeah, because you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did joke with him about that because he brought out like a bag of like chips, and I know he was talking about like being like a gym bro.
Right.
And
That's him.
that was like the extent we'd ever talked about it before, and I was like, must be leg day because he's like chowing down on chips. And he goes, he was like, yeah, and I was like, I'm not like one of those people who's like, oh, I love leg day, I love squats, I love glute bridges and all that stuff. I'm not like one of those girls. I'm like, I like leg day because I can eat on leg day. I can call it carb loading and have like a whole bag of chips. Yeah. And then when we went and saw D&D, I actually went and saw John Wick right after because my husband's a huge John Wick fan.
Sure.
Speaking of long movies.
Super long.
I don't know if you guys have seen it yet.
I've seen it.
But
I've seen probably everything. So.
There's like a
Is it John
part...
Wick 4 hour?
Or pretty much. Like, there's a part where he's like crossing the street and gets hit by, I swear to God, every single car in that city.
That was a great scene.
And then he falls down the stairs like one too many times, falls back down to the start of the stairs. And I was like...
Yeah. I had to go to the bathroom during that movie, and I never go to the bathroom during a movie.
Right? Yeah. Oh, man. And then there's the part where he's, like, walking through the museum, and I'm like, okay, could this walk be any longer? You couldn't have started filming him at, like, painting number 2. Okay.
Yeah, let's get some, like,
Nothing was left on the floor. Nothing was left on the floor for that movie.
No.
I think
it's
probably why I like Coen Brothers a lot, because they just cut the stuff that's unnecessary.
Yeah, the all in camera cutting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they hadn't had those moments, though, John Wick would have been action with no breath.
Yeah, but it's a John Wick movie.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I heard that's what he did, though. I heard he was like, I don't remember if it was the recent one or if it was like the first one, but he was like, let's just cut out my dialogue. Let's just cut all that dialogue out and let's just do the action stuff.
I remember an interview with him where they were like, so it's true you do your action but not your stunts? What does that mean? And he was like, well, when it's a fighting scene, that's me. But like when John Wick gets hit by a car, that's my stunt double. Very talented guy. And then in the 4th movie, there's like just like 20 minutes of John Wick getting hit by a car. And I'm like, oh man, that stunt double got paid well this time.
Also, I heard is that, so no real guns, right? What they do is that they have these guns with a mechanism in it that will set off like the recoil. So instead of having to act a recoil, the gun is set to recoil without being a live firing gun.
Oh, that's cool.
Since obviously we just had that incident like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That he's still on trial for that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like recent enough that that's still going on.
Yeah, haven't dusted that one off yet.
Very nice, Greg. To Tsunami. To Tsunami, Greg.
But I love the John Wick movies because he's a master shooter. Like, he's, like, certified on, like, a course and everything, and I'm like, oh, man. And I love when people talk about filming with him, because they're like, you always forget how old he is, and then he goes, guys, I need to take a break, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is Keanu Reeves. 60. Yeah. They're like, we should probably take a break.
But he's a pro, he's a trooper, like.
Yeah. And I just saw that they announced that he's going to be in Constantine 2, which he has been pushing for since, like, the first one came
Now
out.
that he's old enough to play Constantine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean... Is it going to be a DC movie? Do you know?
All I've seen is the poster and the announcement.
Same.
Because now
I think it's going to be more like
James Gunn and Peter Safran have taken over the whole.
I think it's going to be more Joker type of universe where it's its own thing.
Okay, fine.
I don't think it's going to be part of the whole Gunn DC.
You want to put some money down right now?
I will put a whole 2 doll hairs on
it. I'm hoping. I like a nice connected world.
Yeah.
And I want...
I really like episodes for superhero comic book type stuff specifically. Like we had phases 1 through whatever of Marvel, and it was fun. It was cool. We got to see everything happen. But for most comic book stuff, I like the one-offs.
I'm only going to live so long.
As like a comic book person, I think that there's always a different... So like there's like a Justice League Flash, and then there's like a Flash, and they have like different personalities because you get to see different... And I like that idea rather than like a big... Well, this was the Flash from the Flash movies, so he has to be the Justice League Flash. And I'm like, but does he though?
Yeah. I wish they had done that.
Could you have picked a different berry?
I wish they had done that with the Hulk, when they cast Mark Ruffalo after Ed Norton, after Eric Bana. I was like, you know what? They should really just, every new Hulk should be a new actor. I think that would be awesome. But
yeah.
Mark Ruffalo does a great
He
job.
did a great job.
Yeah, and I like his Hulk a lot. But I was like, oh, going back to 2010, I was like, oh, that'd be cool if they just switched every time.
Not me. Well, I guess that's Sequel Podcast for this week. I'm at Bonta.
I'm Natalie Hurt.
I'm Gregory Klino.
Peace out.